And with it being the last day of the year, it got me to thinking about last days. How do we handle last days? What do we do with last days? I think there's a few very specific ways that we handle last days, and interestingly enough, Buford Van Strom is one of the people I think is a great philosopher in this particular situation. If you don't know who Buford is a character on a show called Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb is fun. It's a funny show. Even if you're an adult, you should watch it sometime because it is humorous. But in the Christmas special, Buford has a very specific and a very unorthodox method of looking at what he's doing. Buford looks at Christmas, and Buford is eternally hopeful that there is a last-minute redemption policy. Buford is the bully. Buford is the one that when all the other kids wonder where their bikes are, they're in his garage. Buford is the one that's going to pick the fight in the mall. Buford is the one that's always going to be poking at other kids. Buford is the one, as you can tell, is the one who doesn't take any gruff off anybody, and you're not going to give him any. And so being a bully all year long, if that's your job, you have to remember that Santa Claus is coming on the 24th. You have a deadline. And with the deadline, Buford has come to this realization that he needs a last-minute redemption policy. He needs one last thing that he can throw out there that maybe Santa will give him what he wants. The show's really interesting because I'm going to spoil it for you a little bit. Sorry, it's just what I do. Anyway, but Buford decides he's going to help his friends. He jumps off, and they decide they're going to give Buford his holiday wish, his Christmas wish. And they're like, what did Buford even ask for? And it goes, Buford wished that all his friends would think he was nice. See, here's the thing, though. Buford had a deadline. And right up to that deadline, he was Buford the bully. But in that last few minutes, Buford comes up with, I'm going to be nice and help my friends, and so he gets his holiday wish. I'm not saying it works like that for everybody, but I'm saying it's interesting that in a cartoon that's really just completely designed for kids, we get this little bit of great view into how we may view it ourselves sometimes. See, I think there's two ways to look at it. There's the way to look at it where you know when you're going to be gone, and there's the way to look at it when you don't know when you're going to be gone. Buford knew Christmas was coming, and he played the last-minute redemption card. I think if you look in 1st and 2nd Kings, we're going to find a king that probably has a very similar reaction to his world as what Buford did. And if you will turn with me to 2 Kings 20, 1 through 11, we're going to read about Hezekiah. In those days, Hezekiah became ill and was at the point of death. The prophet Isaiah, son of Amazon, the guy on the screen, went to him and said, this is what the Lord says. Oh, you guys got me all befuddled now. Okay. Put your house in order, because you are going to die. You will not recover. Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed to the Lord. Remember, Lord, how I have walked before you faithfully and with wholehearted devotion, and have done what is good in your eyes. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. Before Isaiah had left the middle court, the word of the Lord came to him. Go back and tell Hezekiah, the ruler of my people, this is what the Lord, the God of your father David, says. I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you. On the 3rd day from now, you will go up to the temple of the Lord, and I will add 15 years to your life. And I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city for my sake and for the sake of my servant David. Then Isaiah said, prepare a poultice of figs. They did so. They applied it to the boil, and he recovered. Hezekiah had asked Isaiah, what will be the sign that the Lord will heal me and that I will go up to the temple of the Lord on the 3rd day from now? Isaiah answered, this is the Lord's sign to you that the Lord will do what he has promised. Shall the shadow go forward 10 steps, or shall it go backward 10 steps? Now, I need you to understand something. There's a lot of debate about what shadow we're talking about here, but most people think it was probably like a classic sundial, and that it was probably one that was fairly impressive because it probably had steps that it went down to kind of tell you the time. And so what Isaiah is asking him is, should God let the sun go forward 10 steps, or should he make it go backward 10 steps? Are you with me? It's a simple matter for the shadow to go forward 10 steps, said Hezekiah. Rather, have it go backward 10 steps. Then the prophet Isaiah called on the Lord, and the Lord made the shadow go back the 10 steps. It had gone down on the stairway of Ahaz. Now, not only did a prophet that I know is a prophet of God come and tell me, we're going to put a poultice on it, you go up to the temple, and it's going to be okay. You get that, right? Isaiah wasn't like some schmucky little prophet from out of nowhere's land that did nothing. When Isaiah came before you, you knew you were talking to the mouthpiece of God. And Isaiah looks at Hezekiah and goes, okay, here's what God says. In 3 days, you're going to go up to the temple and you're going to make this right. He goes, we're going to put some poultice on it, you're going to get better. Now, that's cool. But Hezekiah goes, well, how do I know God's really going to let me go up to the temple in 3 days? Dude, the mouthpiece of God just said it. Just believe it. But he didn't. So Isaiah goes, well, would you rather the sun keep spinning, or do you want to see it go backwards? Now, I'm going to tell you something. The fact that our little world sits on an axis so far away from the sun that it's perfect, spins in a way that's perfect at a 23, I think it's a half degree angle to the sun, makes it perfect. Everything about where our world is placed is perfect, and so the sun coming up and the sun going down is an amazing feat in and of itself. Do you want the sun to go forward or backward? Well, I really want to know it's God, so make it go backward. And if I'm Isaiah, I'm looking at him trying not to go, you are a little snot. But Isaiah says, okay. So the mouthpiece of God has come and told Hezekiah, you're going to live. He goes, okay, here's a sign. The sign happens. It goes backward up the stairs, and it's an amazing thing. And Hezekiah knows he's going to live. As a matter of fact, Hezekiah knows he's going to live 15 more years. I will add 15 years to your life. That is awesome, is it not? Unless you come at it with a Buford Van Stom attitude. And here's where that attitude shows up. It's in 2 Chronicles 32:25. It says, but Hezekiah's heart was proud. He did not respond to the kindness shown him. Therefore, the Lord's wrath was on him and on Judah and Jerusalem. God gave him 15 more years, and instead of going out there and telling people how awesome God was and making the temple perfect and going out there and doing everything he was supposed to do, and I don't understand this, he goes out and decides he's going to brag to Babylon about how much stuff he's got. Here's a tip. Don't invite the thief into your house and show him where you keep everything. It's not smart. I think back, I'm in holiday mode right now, so I think back to Home Alone movies. You guys remember they let the bad guy come in because he was dressed like a cop, and he walks around and looks at everything and is picking stuff up, and by the time he leaves, he knows they're rich, he knows they're going to be gone, and he's ready to go. Hezekiah brings in the rulers of Babylon and goes, man, look at all my treasure here. Look at all my treasure there. Look at how many guards we have. Look at all this. And they leave. And do you know what happens to Israel not long after Hezekiah? They don't have any riches. They don't have anything. Because Babylon came in and took them into slavery. The most terrible thing about this whole thing is if you go back and read that story, what you will find is Hezekiah was okay with it because it wasn't going to happen in his lifetime. It concerns me that knowing you have 15 years, you aren't out there just blowing it trying to show people who God is. The God that healed me, the God that gave me 15 years old. The God, no, he's not going to make us 15 years old, sorry. But the God who's out there gave Hezekiah 15 more years. Why would you not be out there going, I was going to die, and Isaiah, the mouthpiece of God, came into my court, and he said, you're going to live, and now I'm living, and God says I got 15 more years, so here's what I need to tell you. Let's get the temple right. Let's get Israel right. Let's make it strong. Let's be ready to go for God. Instead, he's walking rulers around going, look how much I've got. Look who I am. See, instead of using his 15 years to make it all about God, he used it to make it all about him. He does eventually break, though, because it seems as if he's still working under the same theory as Buford. 2 Chronicles 32:26 says, Then Hezekiah repented of the pride of his heart, as did the people of Jerusalem. Therefore the king's wrath did not come on them during the days of Hezekiah. It is amazing how people's last days can change them. We used to call it short-timers disease. I've worked at Osco Drugs. I've worked at a few companies where I did networking. I've done all this kind of stuff. And here's the thing that amazes me is how often short-timers disease comes at exactly the same time that somebody turns in their resignation. Short-timers disease springs right up and is a plague upon that person right as soon as they turn their resignation in. Hey, do you think you can do this for me? Nope. Hey, I need some help with this. Yep, looks like you do. Hey, weren't you supposed to do this? And? Short-timers disease is a terrible affliction on the United States right now. Unfortunately, when somebody knows they're in their last days and they just don't care about what they're doing, they become very flip about it often. The last days of work are usually bad for most people. Last days as a single person. Man, we get happy, don't we? Isn't that why we have bachelor and bachelorette parties? We celebrate the end of our singleness. Woo! Little do we know we're about to go into marriage, which is so much better. I got it. See what I did there? Points. Anyway. But we celebrate our singleness, our last days of being single. I'm going to be honest with you, I even celebrated the last day of being a non-parent. My wife, whom I love dearly, was in the hospital. She had just had a C-section. My lovely daughter was probably crying in some room somewhere. I don't know. They wouldn't let us see her yet. So they're like, it's going to be a little while. Go do whatever you want to go do. I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken. I ordered a huge plate of chicken. I ordered a bunch of French fries. I got a big old Coke. I sat it down in front of me. I sat in front of that, and at 26 years old, I looked at that chicken and that Coke and those fries and went, this is probably the last time I will ever be by myself in my life. They're both looking mean at me now. I just want you to know that. Oh, I was 31, wasn't I? I was 26 when I married you. Sorry. I'll pay. It's the end of the year. Hopefully, we'll have that forgiveness roll over, whatever. But it's 31 years old, sitting there looking at a tray of things, and the celebration I'm having is KFC chicken fries and a Coke as my last meal. Because last days are something we look at, it kind of changes us a little bit. The one that really changes people is this, the last days of life. You will see nothing that will alter a person as much as hearing they have cancer. You will never see something that will alter a person as much as finding out that they aren't going to live very much longer. It's amazing how much more serious things become. It's amazing how many more important things that they feel like they have to tell folks. It's amazing how our lives change when we realize how many last days we have. I think it's important to realize all that. Because the truth of the matter is, for most of us, we don't realize that our last days are our last days until they're our last days. Do you get what I'm saying? We don't know that it's our last day while we're in our last day until it is our last day. We live with a wild indifference to the Scripture that tells us to get prepared. If you look in Matthew 24, 36 through 39, it says, "But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." It reminds me of Ebenezer Scrooge. At Christmas time, our family watches a bunch of shows. A lot of people do this, I know that, but one of the ones we throw in there is A Christmas Carol. And the character of Ebenezer Scrooge goes through this great life transformation, and it's amazing. But one of the things that I've noticed, one of the things that as I've watched these different variations on it, and I've read Dickens, don't worry, I'm that refined. Anyway, as I've watched all these things, I can tell you one thing that I've never seen. Scrooge doesn't know how much longer he was going to live. He knows he's going in the ground, and he knows people hate him. He knows there are people out there that, in the book, it talks about they took his bed sheets and took them to a pawn shop to get rid of them because he died in them and nobody wanted them. And so that's how his maid was going to get her wages. But as Scrooge is standing there with the ghost of things to come, the ghost shows him the headstone and there's no date on it. We only know that it's a Christmas. Scrooge goes back. He doesn't know whether he's dying today, whether he's dying the next year, whether he's dying the year after that. He doesn't know how many days he has. But do you know what happens? It doesn't matter. He changes. He gets ready. He allows the spirit of Christmas to flood him. And he begins to show people the spirit of Christmas without any kind of deadline on it. Just knowing that he wants others to know about it. What Scrooge saw when he dove headfirst into the salvation of Christmas, it stimulated him. It made him where he wanted everyone to know. You guys remember, it always talks about him throwing open the windows and asking boy, what day is it? And from that day forth, he begins to share the Christmas spirit with people. But he never knows when he's going to die. Because he didn't know his last day would be his last day until it was his last day. I come to you now as the ghost of things to come. Boo. But I come to you now as the ghost of things to come, and I ask you this question. Will you follow God's command, or are we going to continue to just eat, drink, and be merry? Are we going to follow God's command, or are we just going to continue to live the life we always do? I don't know what your life looks like specifically. I'm not speaking to any one life, but I will tell you this. The way I roll through life, sometimes one day is the same as the next. And sometimes it feels like that string gets to be really, really long. And some days it feels like my life is just this right here that I'm dealing with right now. It feels like I just keep doing the same thing over and over, and I feel like I'm not really showing anything to anybody except the fatigue of repetition. And the thing that keeps me doing it is I just know tomorrow's going to come. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. But what if it doesn't? We need to be prepared. Because people need to know that the Spirit of God resides in us and that we are not just simply good people that go to church. I'm sorry if you're confused by that. But there's a significant difference between people in whom the Spirit of God resides and good people that go to church. And it's kind of like Scrooge. One can't stop telling you about Jesus, and the other one pretends they don't even know it until they have to. Matthew 24, 42 through 44. This is a command from Jesus Christ. It says, "Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into." Durr. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Now, I said to the other one because it's kind of funny to us. We think, of course, if somebody knew when a thief was coming, they would surely not just go to sleep and let them come in and rob their house. But guys, Jesus is coming back, so what are you doing? I'm going to call this last days, but I'm not talking about Revelation last days. I'm talking about the fact in the course of history, your days are still very small. If you are over a day old, your course of history is very small. And if you've never thought about it before, you have from now until you die. And I don't care if that's in 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 100 years. You have from now till you die to let people know that Jesus Christ hung on a cross, died for them, and he wants to take them back to heaven and glory because he loves them, not because he's mad at them. Jesus Christ wants to be with us because he loves us. He paid for us because he loves us. He desires to be with us until time ends because he loves us. And I know people think I talk about my family too much. Do you know why? Because I love them. And to my last day, I will talk about my wife and children. And to my last day, I will tell you that my Savior is Jesus Christ, and I am an idiot who has messed up more times than I can count, but praise be to God, he still hung on a cross, he still paid for all that, he still covered my sins with his blood, and I am still going to heaven because he's going to take me there because I'm his. Well, why do I have to stand up here and shout it like that for you guys to know? Because I'm in my last days too. Shouldn't it be something you just know naturally? Shouldn't it be something that just springs off of us? Shouldn't we be opening windows and looking at people and going, boy, do you know Jesus Christ? How do you want to live your last days? If I gave you a date, would you live like Buford? And look for the last minute redemption of letting everybody know you love Jesus? Or would you spend all that time building up to it? And then my next question is this: why would I have to put a date on it? How you choose to share the gospel of Christ to the world is up to you. I don't care how you do it. If you want to start a vlog or a live stream or a YouTube channel or whatever, get after it. Tell people about Jesus that way. Don't care. Get Jesus out there. Let people know who you are. If you want to be the nicest person the people at Walmart have ever met in their entire lives, be that person. If you want to be the guy that goes in and sits at a restaurant and people fight over you to be your waitress, be that guy. Let people know you love them, not for what they do for you, but because of who Jesus is. Because a love that doesn't involve one party or the other, it just involves Jesus, is a love that's a lot stronger and a lot more fixed than any other love you're going to find. We are in the last days. How will you choose to spread the gospel to the world. I mean, there is a choice. You can hoard it up for yourself. You can know that you have the gospel and you can feel secure in that, and you can hide it, and you can come to church every single week, and you can go home every single week, and everybody during the week can know you're a good person, but don't really know if you love Jesus or not. You can hide up the fruit of the Spirit. And people might know you're a good person, but you're not necessarily a nice person. Or you can walk outside of these walls and you can let the Spirit of God flow through you and move through you, and we can do something big for people outside these walls rather than inside these walls. We can change people out there rather than just changing our decor. How will you in the last days choose to show Jesus to the world? Because today is the last day of 2023. Tomorrow is the first day of 2024. And I'm going to tell you something. I hadn't read that till just now, and it sounds really weird to say 2024. Just want to let you know that. Try it. Everybody say 2024. That's tomorrow. Get ready. Because today's the last day. Knowing that, I am presenting your challenge today. I am presenting to you what I am hoping you will take through the last day and begin stronger in the first day. I want you to blow the world away with the Spirit of God in you. I want you to open yourself up, and I want people to know you're Jesus, and I want them to know that the reason you're nice, the reason you're loving, the reason you take care of people, maybe it's the reason you work so hard, maybe it's the reason that you are, maybe you have a hard time talking to people, maybe it's just how you show people by doing things for them. Whatever it is, let people know you are being driven by the Spirit of God to let them know that Jesus is the King. Jesus is the Lion. Jesus is the Lamb. And when He comes back, everything's going to change. Because the truth of the matter is this: Jesus is the one who will truly see our last days. And when He does, we better be ready like He commands. We better be prepared. And our hope better be secure in the last days. I'm throwing this out there just for this reason. We have awesome people in here. Now, you may look around and go, we do? But we have awesome people in here. It's great that people know you're awesome, but do they know you're Jesus's? It's a distinction. But here's the other thing. If you're an awesome person and you're Jesus's person, can't you be an awesome Jesus person? And can't we let other people know that we have awesome Jesus people here that will love them not because of who they are, not because of who the person here is, but because Jesus Christ said we love everybody the same if we can, and so we allow them to come to us, and we'll go to them, whatever we have to do to show them love. We're starting a new year next week. Are you ready to show the gospel in the last days? Or would it make you more comfortable if we just kept doing church the way we do church? That's your challenge for the week, to think about that.